Hello and welcome to My Mom's Basement, presented by Barstool Sports, and a very special Acolyte edition of My Mom's Basement, where me and Clem are separated by thousands of miles. I lost in the dozen very quickly, so I don't know the exact amount of miles. That would be one of the questions that the honkers got wrong. But we were like two ships passing in the night this week. I went to Chicago, came back. We got bounced quick. You went to Chicago right as I left, still in the tournament. And some are saying a favorite to win it. How we doing, Clem?
By the time people hear this, will they know the result?
No, this is gonna go out Thursday afternoon. So
Okay.
you'll be able to watch if you're watching this like when it first comes out, the dozen Final Four and championship is tonight, correct?
Yep. And if you're in the Chicago area, tickets are still available. Get some tickets and watch the Carnage go down live. And yeah, nerves are fluttering. But Bob Fox, meanwhile, when he was in Chicago, touched the ivy of Wrigley Field just casually. No big deal. Fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, I had some Chicago trip. Like I said, the Honkers got bounced in literally the first game. Monday morning, we were out. So that was just like, oh man, like, am I going to stay the whole week? I didn't know what I was going to do. Night one, our friend Ed, your teammate on Team ZD, took a bunch of us out to this restaurant called Rosemary in Chicago, which is run by a top chef named Joey Flam. He won Top Chef. It's Croatian, Italian. I felt like I was in the Bear. I literally was thinking of you sitting there because I was like, Clem would love this because it feels like you're in the Bear. It's like a nice, very hip restaurant, young people everywhere, but you could see the kitchen in the back. The chef is bringing out, different things every time. Glenny was ready to call it the greatest meal he's ever had. He said every single bite the chef brought out was out of this world. And I tried them all too. Tried stuff out of my comfort zone. Amazing. Night two, I went to Wrigley with Marty, Rhea, Fran, Kelly. Marty is doing a podcast with Justin Steele, Cubs pitcher. I think their best pitcher this year. He was pitching that day.
Awesome.
So they brought us down onto the field. After the game, I touched the ivy. And shout out Sam Lauderdale, basement boy. He said, now I know how like golf fans feel about you going to Augusta. Because again, I'm not a Cubs fan. I am a huge Yankees fan, but I played the part. I sang Go Cubs Go, banger song, played the 50-50 raffle. I got a hot dog. It was a great trip to Chicago for me.
That's a beautiful thing. Chicago Bob having the time of his life.
And I went to the Chicago Theater to take pictures like where The Dark Knight was framed when the ballet gets canceled.
For the older people on the pod, I saw the Chicago sign that you see in Perfect Strangers, the opening of Perfect Strangers, where it says Chicago. So that is such an old ass reference. There's like 17 of you guys nodding your head, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I like seeing the Dark Knight locations when I go to Chicago, specifically the Joker corner, but it was a little too far from the hotel, so I didn't go. But that one, and people were telling me The Fugitive was Chicago too, which I didn't realize. I would have liked to see a little Fugitive spot.
Yeah, he has they have the river. They talk about dying a green. I'm not gonna lie to you, Bob. I was gonna float a Dark Knight tour with you, but then you said you were leaving like the next day, so we could have had a Basement Boys Dark Knight tour.
I would have stayed for that.
I blame Clemmer. If Clemmer was better during the dozen, you win, and then you go to the next round, and I'm here with you.
Yeah. That was rough. But we are here to talk about The Acolyte this week, episode 4 of The Acolyte, which I think we were pretty excited for because Ken Jack said it was probably the best of the screeners. It at least had a really good ending, and he said it'll kind of like get people hooked in. And I think that kind of played true for me. Like, I think the ending was pretty good. I am more entertained now. I feel like the twist is getting very predictable. I feel like I know exactly where they're going, and I think we all do. But it's interesting. This show is, I think it's pretty good so far, at least 1, 2, and 4. I didn't really like last week's as we discussed, but 1, 2, and 4, I think are pretty good. I'm a little worried that pretty good is its ceiling. Not worried, but I think pretty good might be its ceiling. It's just not super captivating. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a young adult show. Again, it's for a younger audience, clearly. I don't have the issues that a lot of people have with it now that they're ruining canon and this character said that. We'll get into that later. I think those are ridiculous, most of them. But yeah, like the people that are saying I just can't get hooked in the show, I get that. I think you got to be a pretty diehard Star Wars fan to really enjoy this and keep coming back like Tuesday nights.
I always think I used to think this a lot with the early Disney Plus shows, and I've kind of stopped thinking it because, to be honest with you, the answer is usually no. It's like, would I go back and just rewatch this show like I would rewatch a movie, or even an episode? And there's been Mando episodes, right? Like when we saw
Oh yeah.
Luke and maybe Baby Yoda. There's a bunch. I was rewatching the robot scene. Yes, no. My
Yeah.
kids and I could watch that for an hour straight, and they belly laugh the entire time. And also forgotten in that scene, which I had forgotten about until we rewatched it the other day. Bad baby, no squeezy. Your boy Bobby Frick
Yes.
crushed that line.
That shit was great. Yeah.
It was great. But it's like I think of a lot of the Marvel stuff. And then even obviously, like if I want to watch a dude just sleeping in a Bacta tank, I will go back and watch Boba Fett, but there's no other real reason to do that other than the Mandalorian episodes. And this, I think, is falling into that bucket very clearly as well. It's like, I wouldn't say it's the worst show ever. So this is how I'm saying. Like you're saying, it's pretty good. I could give it the it's all right tag if I'm saying like you. As I'm saying this, you probably get this reference a little bit. I'm sure some people who are listening will get it. It's like when I have a guy in like my flex spot of fantasy, and he's not putting up starter. No, he's like he got me an 8 today. He didn't get shut out. He didn't score a touchdown. Got a couple like receiving yards, rushing yards, and he got me an 8. Like I'll live with it. That's kind of what this is. I'll live with it. And considering where I thought we were going to be before the season started, not great. I also don't think that it's worse than the holiday special, which did you see it's now has a lower Rotten Tomato score than the holiday special?
I'm glad you brought that up because that's exactly where I wanted to go next. I got a bone to pick with Old Balls. I hated that blog. I thought that blog was horrible. When he laid out and he's like, look, Star Wars fans are clearly saying it's worse than the holiday special. Disney can't deny that 85% of people are talking this way. That's complete horseshit. And we all know it is. He acknowledged in the blog that there's review bombing, but he kind of said like, oh, I'm sure Disney will blame the review bombing. It's entirely review bombing. Like they review bombed a movie from 2006 called Acolyte, which now has also probably a lower score than the holiday special. There is no part of the holiday special, which I love and watch every Christmas Eve, that is even 1/10 as good as the Acolyte. You can put the Acolyte on I could invite my sister over, someone that's not a big Star Wars fan, put the Acolyte on, and she might be like, it's not great, but whatever, it's watchable. You cannot make it through the first 10 minutes of the holiday special with a non-Star Wars fan. You probably can't do it with a Star Wars fan because it's all no dialogue, just Wookiees groaning at each other. And then like the grandpa gets porn. It is strange. There's blackface in it. It's the weirdest thing of all time. There's no Star Wars fan alive who can truthfully say, I think the holiday special is better than the Acolyte. And that is not what the Rotten Tomatoes score says about it at all. And he also said at the end of the blog, he's like, Star Wars is dead. I thought that they had, a little life left, but this absolutely put the nail in the coffin, killed it. Jerry, we'll see if you keep that same energy for Andor season 2, because I know you loved Andor season 1. So when you start going, Disney killed Star Wars, but I love Andor, you start sounding like the people that go, Barstool and Dave suck, but I like Pardon My Take and Chicks in the Office and this. And it's like, you're praising some of their most popular stuff. You like Disney Star Wars. You just don't like some Disney Star Wars.
If you're not going to be at Mando opening weekend, then like, hey, I'll believe what you're saying.
Exactly. You're not going to see the Mandalorian and Grogu. And I know some people were down on season 3. I feel like it's getting almost a revisionist. People are getting more down on it as they look back. But I look back at some of the things you brought up. I think it was the 4th episode with the pirate. It might have been the Bryce Dallas Howard one. Might not have been. But there were like some really good episodes that season. I think the Lizzo and Jack Black episode put a really sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. And I think we all wanted more Mando, maybe a little less Bo, but it wasn't like a horrible season of TV. It was just not as good as the first 2.
You're eating pistachio nuts. Everything's good. And then you get that like dead nut that just is like, what the fuck was that? Did I just eat like a bug? That was the Lizzo and Jack Black episode, essentially.
It was almost like they were like, they got a little too cocky. They were feeling themselves. They were like, everything we're putting on screen in Mando, they're loving. They'll love Lizzo and Jack Black as a, king and queen, right? And it's like, no, it felt like SNL.
That was like a Mad Libs. It's like, all right, how is this going to work? It's like female celebrity, Lizzo, male celebrity, Jack Black, and the Christopher Walken twist. That was right. That was that episode as well.
Yeah, not Christopher Walken.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Christopher
Walken would have been
would've
great, though. I would have loved Walken. The
I'm
Emperor from
always been a
Dune, who
fan.
he almost ruined Dune for Dave. That was one of my favorite takes. Jeff was trying to defend it, and Dave just kept going, horrible, horrible. Also, shout out Dave. He had the cancer removed on his neck. Well wishes to Dave on all of that. Well recovery.
Yeah, I learned my boss had cancer right before we were going into a playoff match of our very highly contested trivia. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I have cancer. So dedicate this game to me. I was like, oh, thanks, Dave.
That was an outrageous opening to that game, especially for the uninitiated who didn't at least have the warning of, I think BFFs put out like a little clip about it. Dave just opened the match by going, and I have cancer. And Jeff went, sorry to hear that. As you know, the rules of the dozen are 12 questions, 12. And I was like, what the fuck? At least let the people know he's going to be okay.
Truly never know what's going to happen on any episode of the dozen. That's why you got to watch. It's just nonsense.
It's fucked. And I guess I shouldn't say you never know what's going to happen on an episode of The Acolyte because it's getting a little predictable, but let's get
into it. That's true.
We begin on Kofar, the Wookiee planet. Again, not the Wookiee planet, but the one that Kelnacca went to. Again, a very cool planet. It's a mountainy forest, has those weird trees. We see the rotten trees later on. Again, kudos to them for making a forest world that doesn't look like the forest moon of Endor. I thought that was worth bringing up. Kelnacca gets home, typical day. He's got the robe on, kind of looking over his shoulder, making sure nobody followed him. He starts chopping up some, I think, fish or something, maybe alien fish. Look like fish to me. And they zoom in. He's kind of got the spiral grooves on his wall, maybe from Brendock, where he was stationed before. It looked a little bit like the marking on the girl's forehead,
right?
But
that's what I was thinking.
They played that ominous. Yeah, it was interesting. And some people said this looked like Shrek's hut before. Definitely felt like it. Or like Thanos's, when he goes and starts making food and then the Avengers fucking ruin his breakfast.
I that's what I was thinking too. I said we're getting a little Thanos with the little pot and he's cooking up something in the cauldron there. Little Fortress of Solitude. There was a part of me, rest in peace. I was like, man, it would have been sweet. And there's no way it would have been, obviously he was sick at the end, but I would have let that Bill Walton just be one of the Wookiees before he passed. I thought that would have been great. In my head canon, that's who he is. So
yeah,
shout out Bill Walton.
We see Jecki, the X-23 trainee in a Jedi training class. I don't know why, but I kind of like this Jedi teacher. I think it was the first time we saw him. He kind of looked like this wrestler Buddy Murphy. He had like the orange man bun, orange beard. I kind of liked him. He seemed cool.
You know who I thought he looked like in the face, not the hair, was Dan Campbell. So I'm like, oh, this is a no-nonsense Jedi because he looks like a no-nonsense football coach. Perfectly makes sense, right?
Yeah, I liked him. Osha comes to say goodbye. They played this scene sort of like heartfelt, like, you're going to miss me. We're friends. That didn't land at all for me. We didn't spend enough time with these two characters together for me to believe that they bonded and became friends. And I think she just showed her one thing, how to fix something or something at one point. So that I thought that was a little weird how they tried to play oh, we're saying goodbye. It's episode 4 and we didn't see them at all in episode 3. So it's
that's what I was going to say. It's episode 4. So we've had 3 episodes and you guys were barely together during those 3 episodes. So
that was weird.
Nothing for me.
And she doesn't plan on saying goodbye to Sol. I did like Osha's line about hey, one day you and I will get together in a cantina and trade Sol stories. I was like, oh, that does feel like how kids in a Star Wars universe would talk. One day we'll go trade horror stories in a bar. So, all right, I like that line.
That's kind of and granted they're kids and it's like a school, but it's the same thing with school and teachers as it is with work, where it's hey, let's go to happy hour and just basically vent about the boss, which we would never do. Dave Portnoy is the all-knowing great man, cancer survivor, all that kind of stuff. We love him, but other people might do that.
Yeah, I am so upset I miss Miss Peaches too. I've never met Miss Peaches, and everyone is just literally every single person that meets Miss Peaches says another great thing about her.
Good, strong dog. That's all I can really say. Just a good, strong dog. And it's the most famous person I'll ever meet. Or maybe it's most famous creature, I guess I should say.
Donnie had a great line on the Dozen broadcast yesterday where he was like, I'll never say a bad word about Miss Peaches because she pays for my salary and merch. And it kind of clicked with me, how many salaries does she pay for with her merch? Because I think it's a lot of us.
Oh, man. That's a dig to the soul. Not a dig, but that is
Well,
Like one of
actually, I
those things
guess
you just hear
I
out
think the merch
loud.
goes to the adoption. So you know what? We feel better about it
True.
because they
Okay, I
do
feel
the
better
adoption
about that.
shop. They donate. Yeah, buy Miss Peaches merch. Buy Miss Peaches peaches. You could buy her peaches.
It's like it's hard enough when she had like more followers on social media in the first hour that she had an account than I've had like my entire life. But the merch thing went over the top, but nonetheless, still.
Back to the show. We see May and Kamir arrive on Kofar. So May, obviously the evil twin, or so we think, and Kamir being the spice trader who was helping her. He knows the boss. Kamir knows that bounty hunters won't even step foot in this forest. And she's like, but you have? And he's like, well, yeah. And he swears he's never seen the Sith's face. He's urging her, like, how are you going to kill the Jedi without a weapon? Because, he really wants you to kill him without a weapon. Like, you should really do that the way he wants, because they could be bad if you don't want that. The sus radar goes off immediately, and it's like, oh, he's the guy, isn't he? Like, the two of them are alone. He's got a big bag probably big enough for like a helmet and a robe, maybe a lightsaber. Kamir's the guy, right?
You mean the sidekick that talks a lot, a little goofy, might actually end up being the big bad Sith Lord?
He seems like a bumbling idiot.
Yep. And here we are. They're running along 25 years ago, right? Is that the number?
I mean, they're doing it. They're basically doing Darth Jar Jar. And I know people basically thought he was when we first met him, because they said he had like the same speech patterns. And there was a little part of me hoping, like, I hope that's not just it. I hope people didn't realize, like, oh, he talks the exact same. But yeah, I guess he's the Sith guy, which I'm not super bummed about, but like a little bit. I mean, it seems just, again, too predictable.
Yeah. And it is interesting though, because like the Jedi did kind of play their cards to him, not knowing, right, who he was. So that makes that part of it a little more interesting down the line for them. It's probably not good for them. But yeah, I have said, and I'll say it, I still am intrigued by the mystery of it all. I am, but it's starting to feel like we're on episode 4. We're not episode 7. So it's like, I feel like we're figuring out a lot of stuff, but they can go a lot of different ways still, I suppose.
I feel like when the show started, I was as intrigued by the Sith, like Acolyte character and their backstory. At this point, I feel a lot more interested in the actual secrets of what happened on Brendok with the Jedi. How did that go down with the witches and all that? Than I am the Acolyte story, though, because it's like, again, it feels like we know. I almost feel like it's spoiled, like one of the big mysteries. So, but again, like, I want to know what happened with the Jedi. Seems weird. Master Torben fucking killed himself over it. Strange.
Sus.
We have a new sponsor to talk about. Not a strange sponsor, an amazing sponsor. Butcher Box. You can get incredible deals on premium cuts from Butcher Box. Deals this good are hard to come by at the grocery store. And with Butcher Box, you can find high quality meat and seafood that you can trust. 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, pork raised crate free, and wild caught seafood. All of this stuff is going to taste so good. You're going to be thinking you're Joe Flam from Top Chef when you make it. You can get customized box plans delivered right to your doorstep with free shipping. Butcher Box is humanly raised, no antibiotics or added hormones. That's amazing. And there are a variety of high quality cuts at an amazing value. Get exclusive member deals, recipe inspiration, tips, and more with Butcher Box. Sign up for Butcher Box today and go to butcherbox.com/basement and use code basement at checkout and enjoy your choice of bone-in chicken thighs, top sirloins, or salmon in every box for an entire year, plus 20% off. Again, that's butcherbox.com/basement. Use code basement. I can't wait to do that myself. I love trying new stuff like that. We're going to be cooking it up at the Casa de Fox.
I think our boy Kelnacca might have been better off if he had Butcher Box instead of going out hunting and letting his location out there. So
Butcher Box would deliver to that forest too. I know bounty hunters wouldn't, but Butcher Box does.
Exactly.
If you live on Kofar, they'll bring it to you.
Guaranteed. That's a Butcher Box promise. Box promise. I have to say, I wanted a little more to that forest. If it's treacherous enough that bounty hunters won't go, I need more than just one little flying asshole that was immediately sliced in half with a lightsaber.
To the lightsaber. They really took that away from Solo. I mean, we'll get to it let's just talk about it now. We'll get to it later, but they took that away from Solo immediately. He fucking killed a bug. He was the hero. And then Yor beyond him was like, oh, he was attracted to your lightsaber. He just ran right into it. And Soul was like, oh yeah, deflated.
The soldiers are not happy. We do not take that kind of slander for our king. It's almost like a team that was a decent trivia team, but always talked themselves out of answers. They get someone that stops them from getting in their own heads, and then it's like, oh, they fixed the questions for them, and it's unfair. Blah blah blah. Cry cry cry. Just hypothetically speaking here. So if you say stuff like that about that trivia team, you're basically the person that's raining on Soul's parade. And if that's who you want to be, that's fine. You're not invited to the team anymore.
Listen, you think the soldiers are upset about this episode. How do you think the Kelnacca fans feel?
Oh, I mean,
we'll get to that. I mean, we knew it would happen, but I didn't want it to happen. I said on the show, I said that might be where I draw the line. Dead Wookiees. I don't want to see dead Wookiees. I don't want to see dead Ewoks. I don't want to see dead anything that reminds me of a dog. They're pushing it. They're certainly pushing. I'm trying to defend the show. I'm one of the only ones stepping up and fucking yelling at old balls. I'm trying.
Meanwhile, in House of the Dragon, we have dogs getting kicked too. So it's like
that was fucked. Yeah,
dog creatures are head on swivel right now.
By the way, if you're listening to this and you didn't know, we did do a House of the Dragon episode 1 live recap. We're going to be doing that all season with KFC. If you go on the YouTube or Rumbles, I think you have to click live stream to see it. So if you click on videos, it probably won't be there, but go back, check that out. It was great. We put on the costumes once again. So this is the most controversial moment of the episode by far. And the discourse about it is really pissing me off. I woke up at like 8 a.m. and started tweeting about it today.
I don't even know what you're about to say here. I'm kind of interested about this.
So this is great. We see a cameo from Ki-Adi-Mundi from the prequels. Fucked up head guy. One of my favorite facts about him is that he had to repopulate his home planet. They were going extinct. So the Jedi signed off on him fucking. He's the only Jedi that they were like, you go fuck.
Oh, amazing. That's amazing.
Amazing fact.
Head, or does he use like the traditional means?
Probably uses both.
Yeah,
who knows?
I'll go on Wikipedia.
He's got a little ponytail on the head, so I don't know if it's like an avatar type thing. You can touch a ponytail together or something. But he gets killed during Order 66. He's got that line, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? That people always make a meme now. He's in the Battlefront. He was in the Clone Wars a little bit as well. So he appears on Coruscant, and I think he's pretty old, thousands of years old, but I think they changed his birthday for this, which people are up in arms about. Grown men are like, they fucking changed Wikipedia.
Wow,
crazy.
They changed Wikipedia?
Yeah, they updated Wikipedia.
I didn't know that was legal. How much, like how many years did they add?
I think a couple hundred, maybe.
Oh, man.
But he was, no, not a couple hundred, because he was there for the Phantom Menace. So maybe 100.
Do you think they're like, what's the smallest edit we can make that will piss people off the most? And this is what they came up with.
It goes further, because this scene,
oh boy,
dude, people, I'll read you a tweet that I quote tweeted today that's insane about this scene. And I'll make you guess what spurred this tweet from this specific scene. If your fans have to defend a bad decision fighting for their life, in the comments, all caps on life, because the continuity error in the Acolyte is potentially massively destructive to well-established conceptions of the understanding of the Star Wars universe. You're just bad at telling Star Wars stories. From this is maybe a 2-minute scene with the Jedi meeting around, the Jedi asking is it a splinter order? Could it be something worse? Soul wants to take care of it kind of his way. Ki-Adi-Mundi is like, should we alert the High Council? Vernestra says no, because they'll alert the Senate. It'll cause panic. And she's upset with Soul for not telling her May could have survived. This is the scene that has ruined Star Wars. Final nail in the coffin. You can never watch A New Hope the same way.
So I guess I'll never. So I'm clearly outside of these algorithms, right? This is why this is why I enjoy when we pod about Star Wars, because you're in it, right? You, Ken, Jack, Jeff know that stuff, know this guy's name off your head, top of your head, where I'm just oh, look at shiny objects, right? So as someone that is that, I had no idea this was a thing. I also will respect I have my things that I'm like crazy passionate about as well. I fought those wars. I've been angry about them. At this point, the amount of like nostalgia that we've kind of like butt fucked through remakes, reboots, yada, yada. I've kind of like, that's just the way it is. We watched Game of Thrones, just completely botched the ending, which was like my favorite show ever at that point. Right. So I've had my things. I'm like, let's remake the prequels, let's remake the sequels, let's remake season 8 of Game of Thrones. I've gone through all these things just wanting them to do right by what I want. So I respect your right to be upset. If you think it ruined Star Wars, it might have ruined it for you. I'll tell you, there is a huge chunk of the fan base that does not know or give a fuck about this guy. I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
Well, that's exactly where I want to go with this. I looked it up. He is in the Clone Wars a little bit, and he's kind of annoying in the Clone Wars, if I'm being honest. In the movies, I believe in the entire prequel trilogy combined, he's in it for about 3 minutes. He has about 3 minutes of screen time. And I think he's got 3 total lines, maybe 4. One of the lines he has is the Sith haven't existed for a millennium, 1,000 years. But what about if he knew about the Sith here? That ruins Star Wars, because he's saying 100 years prior to the Phantom Menace, maybe people are suggesting, could it be a Sith or maybe whatever? Now we're saying 100 years later, the Sith haven't existed for 1,000 years. Is he lying to the Jedi, or did they just not think of that? This is the dumbest complaint I've ever heard. Dave Filoni approves and gives notes to every single Acolyte script, confirmed by the writer this week. There is no chance that Dave Filoni forgot that line and said, oh, well, you know what? I made a mistake. I made a continuity error. Ki-Adi-Mundi is not on Kofar, and I think there's a reason for that. Also, I think a lot of them are going to die at some point. There's going to be a cover-up of some point, of some part. If there's not, and it does contradict this, let's think about it. You have contradicted a line in the prequel trilogy from a guy who has like 1 line per movie and is in it for 3 total minutes. Most people don't know the name of. As if the prequels never contradicted the original trilogy. These were movies that everyone hated when they came out. Anakin built C-3PO. What the fuck is that all about? Obi-Wan doesn't recognize R2-D2 in A New Hope despite spending decades of his life with him. Star Wars contradicts itself sometimes. And this is the most minor of contradictions possible. If it even is a contradiction. We don't know if it is, though. We have no idea. The story is going to continue. There's no inkling that he knows the Sith are back yet.
Yeah, no. If it is a contradiction, it just seems like an unnecessary headache to give yourself. And it's like, you could have went a million different ways. They fucked up if that's the case. But like you said,
I don't think Dave Filoni is the kind of guy to fuck up, because he suggested last week, he said, don't use the Night Sisters. They wouldn't do that kind of magic. Use just your own witches. If he's fucking correct in Night Sisters from the cartoons, you don't think he knows the shit from the movies?
In this basement, we trust the Filoni.
We trust the Filoni. Through and through.
Dave Filoni's a hero.
Yes. I'm making that meme this week. I'll make that meme.
And listen, Feige hasn't. I'm not giving him Feige trust for remaking the X-Men. He does not get the X-Men 97 credit. I feel like he did a lot of things. He's like, we need the theme song. Very smart. He did his puppet master stuff in a good way there. I feel like Filoni does the same thing. I understand when people are pissed. You also have to realize those people who love the prequels, I fucking hate the prequels, and I probably hate you because you love the prequels and you make it seem all right. And I know you watched the cartoons; they made them better. 100% agree. That's fine. We just watched fucking Anakin and Obi-Wan square off and completely butt fuck the scene in New Hope, right? It's like they are just going to fuck this up for better or worse. And hopefully they tear it down, but then build something better on top of it for the future. Because if not, it's let's just keep the original trilogy and nothing else, which I'm sure people would have been fine with as well, the way everything has gone, right?
Yeah, probably. Ki-Adi-Mundi also. Oh no, I was going to read his line about the Sith not existing for 1,000 years. Haters of this are so stupid. That was my note. Soul meets up with Osha because she wasn't.
Bob's going to be duking it out. Oh, Bob's going to be duking it out this week.
I had to hold myself back from replying. I quote tweeted that one guy because I was just like, we're talking about. I said, AKA might, keyword might, change one line from a background character in movies that Star Wars fans passionately hated when they came out. That's the way Star Wars fans say that Disney has ruined Star Wars and George's Star Wars was perfect. It's you guys did not have that energy when the prequels came out. At least you weren't adults for that. If you were my age, you were kids and you loved Jar Jar and all that. But don't even get me fucking started. I'll go down the rabbit hole all week.
Just
Soul meets
embrace
up
the
with
dark side,
Osha.
Robbie. Just hate all the bad shit that I hate. It's so much easier when you just hate everything but the original trilogy.
Well, now my algorithm is like sending me more and more of that because they saw me respond. So it's toxic. It's real toxic. Soul asks Osha if she can come with the Jedi to ensure that May doesn't get hurt. He's like, I saw there's still good in her. Her eyes kind of softened when I brought up that you were alive. She has a line where she goes, she's a murderer. And he says, but she's still your family. And when he first said this, it hit my brain in a weird way where I was like, no, that's not how that works. And then I thought about it for 2 seconds further and I was like, that's kind of what the original trilogy is about. Like Darth Vader, he murdered way more than, but it's like Luke's like, there's still light in you. So I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm down with that. And I love the jump cut here where she agrees. She goes, fine, but I won't wear that civilian robe. And it cuts to her in like a 3rd grade painter smock. I thought that was hysterical. That got a real laugh out of me.
Smock is one of my favorite words in an insult. One time I was at work and a guy had a shirt on. It was like a little long and it was like, looks like a dad shirt. He's like, he goes, why are you wearing a smock to work today? Absolute bird. Everyone just cracks up. You're immediately, translated back to elementary school. Such a bird.
One of my favorite clothing chirps of all time came from Nick Tirani to Feidelberg. Feidelberg was wearing like brown pants and a green shirt. And Nick walked past him and he went, what up, Shaggy? Where's Scooby? Feidelberg said he's thought about it every day since.
It's the worst when someone comes up with something so witty and you never even saw it coming and they just light you on fire, essentially.
We meet Basil here as well on the ship. Basil is this like gopher guy, which he's a guy because they call him he later on, but people are also upset because May says like he or they. She kind of corrects the pronoun for a second.
Oh boy, people aren't gonna like that.
It didn't even register for me, to be honest, the line and that being the meaning behind it. You go on Twitter and people are fucking up in arms and change Wikipedia, all that. But I love this guy, Basil. He kind of like fucks with he's not fucking with Pip, but he like looks at Pip, makes a little noise at him, and Pip sprays him like the Joker would spray people with the little flower.
Did you like that he had that ability to spray?
Oh yeah, I thought that was funny because it's like BB-8 has the little flame, like R2 has a little arm come out. Like if he could spray a little fucking oil or water, whatever it was, that's funny.
Yeah, I like that they like had beef, and Basil was cute right off bat. I was like, oh, they hit the furry creatures. You never know. I think I'm going back. Obviously, at Ewoks early, we obviously had our boy Babu. We've gone over time, and I think the ones that hit the least, but I thought would hit the most, were Porgs. I think Porgs is like that #1 baseball prospect that everyone had. Bob was ready to fucking adopt a whole litter of them, and I think they were cute as hell, but they were just. But it was a tough movie for them, right? It's like people. It was a very
funny in that movie, though.
But it's like Babu, I think, has a life after
Chewbacca ate where he was about to eat one, and then Chewbacca went vegetarian because they were so cute. Then when they're stepping on the lightsaber thing, when the one in the Millennium Falcon at the end is fucking great when they're going through the crystal cave and fucking hits on the glass. I'm still a poor guy. I'm not signing off on that. I can't sign off on the Porgs being a.
I thought you were going to
say the old Italian ladies.
Oh no, we love the old Italian ladies on this podcast. We'll never speak ill of them. Yeah. They'll hit you over the head. They'll backhand you over the head if you fuck with them.
I'm trying to think who that would be for me though. Like the things that hit the least. The horses in Last Jedi were lame. I could admit that.
Yeah, but like they're not the cute, furry like thing you're supposed to like.
True.
Right? Where the Porgs were, they were almost too cute and they didn't do enough other stuff, I feel. But it's like they were fine for what they, I guess added to the movie. I thought they just wanted to sell $1 billion worth of merch, which is how I usually feel with these Disney things.
They probably still did. I had to buy my nephew a Porg in Disney, and they jacked that price up because I thought when I go to Disney, my nephew likes Porgs, my niece likes Porgs. I was like, I'll get him some Porgs. They only have one that's the size of your head for like $50. I was like, oh my god, give us a life-size Porg, Disney.
Jesus, they get
the Jedi
supersized.
The Jedi, they land on Kofar. The locals say Kelnacca ventured into the forest and never came back. The locals seemed like douchebags, too, to be honest. They couldn't even they were sending everyone away. They couldn't just give them directions. Douchebags. Yord also being a douchebag. He with the gun, you're going to have to give me that gun. It's actually Republic property. Just chill out. Again, just chill out.
I don't know if I want him to be revealed as a bad guy or I want him to die. I don't care if he's good or
I
bad.
think
I
I
just
want
want
him
him
to
to die.
die. Yeah, I think I just want this Sith to die, and that'll, maybe it'll fuel Osha in some way because they were obviously friends before she left the Order, and some people are speculating maybe they're going to swap the twins by the end. They'll do the classic Stone Cold Bret Hart double turn, where Osha will be the bad one, May will be the good one at the end. I don't know if they'll go with that. I think they're just both going to team up and be good, and they're the power of two, fucking force push somebody and off a cliff, some shit like that.
Or just writing the if all this happens that we've been speculating about, it's gonna look so goddamn bad.
Yeah. They're going to force push him off a
rosy.
cliff. We're going to think he's dead. He'll be back next season, and we'll be like, how is he back? And they won't explain why he's back, but somehow he's returned. All that shit.
Yep.
Ki-Adi-Mundi will be fucking, and he'll know all about the Sith, and he'll be a Jedi traitor, and it'll ruin the entire saga. Osha asks Yor to take care of May if the time comes. He's like almost the Gamora Peter Quill conversation of like, I don't know if I'm going to be strong enough to do it. I'm going to need you to do it. Yord says May has always been her wound. So he's like, I'm going to have to watch both of you. You're going to have to confront your past. And now we venture into the fucking bug forest. And I knew as soon as I see these sacks on the trees, it's like, oh, someone's going to crawl out of that. I was expecting it to almost be spider eggs, like hatching and then big spiders. I'm glad it wasn't that because I feel like Mando did that with the ice spiders already. But they weren't spiders or sacks at all. They were just big roly-poly type bugs that have wings. So she touches one, goes all the way up. It's called an umbra moth. That was in the closed captions. It flies right into Soul Saber, as we said, complete idiot bug. And Osha tells Jecki she was able to sense that creature. So we have little hints that the force is coming back within her. Her powers are coming back.
Again, you alluding to those spiders kind of like hammered it home. That was like this is a place where I can understand why bounty hunters wouldn't want to go when there's giant ice spiders everywhere. This place had some slugs and a fucking thing that is attracted to light. Like bounty hunters.
Other than that, they seemingly had a great journey through the forest.
It was the least intimidating forest. It was like Tatooine had more issues. It's a desert,
Oh yeah.
At least they have a couple things here and there. So that was like, maybe that's a nitpick on my part, but that was one of those things where I'm like, why wouldn't bounty hunters? Maybe this is like a bounty hunter's paradise. You just set up shop there, and it's basically the Thanos planet. It's nothing but peaceful. It's the garden. I'm going go for the garden. It's Star Wars garden.
The writer of this episode answered some questions on Twitter this week, which God bless her for having the strength to fucking go on Twitter and read her replies.
Oh, it's a woman writing, Bob? I think we found our problem. Women don't write my Star Wars.
Thanks, Kathleen Kennedy. And people call it She Wars now, which doesn't even make sense. People would say the MCU. At least that rolls off the tongue. MCU. She Wars. No, that doesn't work. Come up with a different thing. But she said they wrote this episode and next week's episode to get like as one, and for some like timing reason she didn't specify, Disney Plus like made them split them into two. That's why she said it seems like almost like an unnatural cliffhanger, because she's like, it was just supposed to like, I think we were supposed to get like an hour-long episode, and this wound up being the shortest one, which maybe there was more to that. Maybe she said they cut like the Kelnacca versus Sith scene. She's like, we straight up cut that because we thought it was better for like the flow of the episode. So who knows? That could have been originally included.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was wondering why it was such a short runtime. I mean, this is kind of how it's been with some of the shows where around this point is where it starts dropping. And usually I'm like, thank God, because I didn't really want to watch 50 minutes of this anymore. So I was happy about that. It does make sense. And again, I think like the cuts have been weird. We've been saying that since I think the premiere. At least this one has a little more logic behind it. Still just not how you just feels like this is just not how you make a good, well-run TV show. If this is an internet only thing, which I guess technically is because it's a streaming thing, it makes sense. It just feels odd.
They put $180 million into this, like crazy. And it just gets crazier from here because I really don't like this next scene. May starts to doubt that this test is even achievable. She's like, I think the final test is impossible. If I don't complete it, I'm going to be killed anyway. So she's getting more and more fed up with the mission. Kamir is like insisting it must be done against us. He's the fucking Sith. She traps him and tells him, I'm turning myself into the Jedi. Like my loyalty is to my sister Osha. Everything has changed for me now that I know she's alive. I'm going to turn myself in. I'll tell her, the Jedi who I know, exchange that information, kind of become a rat. She's doing the Jesse Pinkman. I'll go to the DEA and I'll give up Walter White and maybe I'll get off. And he's like, that's impossible. I doubt you could even survive in this far. She's like, I doubt he could even get here without a guide. More clue that like he's already here, you dope. But this another just instant mood change where it's like everything she stood about, she just murdered 2 people and instantly my sister's alive, so I'm going to turn myself in. Maybe if we spent a little more time with her, maybe if last week's episode hammered home that they had a good relationship as sisters before that they split up. But just like, I don't know. I didn't buy that she just changed on a dime like that at all.
So I'll give hey, this was actually a brilliant move by her because I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
What if she said that because she knew he was the master and he would then kill Kelnacca? And now she didn't have to raise her weapon and go, hey, dope, I just had you do that. That's like the final thing of your Sith is to basically lie and trick the other person to do your dirty work for you.
That'd be brilliant. That'd be so ahead of me that I would bow down to the Acolyte. That'd be awesome.
I'll tell you right now, if that plays out, I want a Star Wars movie. And if it doesn't play out, I want a Star Wars movie because I just gave you a good fucking twist.
You just True Detective. You did the True Detective thing to it where that's better. I know that's better than what we're going to get. So yeah, it's tough. Damn. Yeah, that scene was too quick. Just like the goodbye scene where I just felt like we didn't spend enough time.
It's all right though, because she already figured out that he was the guy and she had him killed. It was brilliant. It was a great movie by her.
And then maybe she's still a Sith all along. She just mind tricked him. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Smartest thing I've seen in Star Wars since Han Solo put the Millennium Falcon on the back of the Star Destroyer. Cloaking devices.
Oh. By the way, the clip about that I sent you is so good, and that is such an insight to George Lucas and such an insight to the people that say he knew what Star Wars was. He had this idea of it in his head that never changed. Dave Filoni tells a great story about having a small ship in an episode of the Clone Wars that cloaks itself. Dave Filoni goes, but George, no ship that small could have a cloaking device, quoting Empire. And George was like, I don't even know if George like picked up on the quote. He was like, well, this one does. And they just made that small ship have a cloaking device, completely retconning and changing canon, ruining Star Wars for all of us ever.
That's like when
lightsabers, laser swords. Like you guys are thinking about it more than he ever did.
It's like when you make a joke to Dave that is a good joke and he just doesn't land with him because he's not paying attention or something. He doesn't get it. And you're like, that was a good one. Yeah, exactly.
Soul sees like a tree and he has a friggin' panic attack because I think he knows he's closing in on Kelnacca. He promises that he and Osha will face their paths together when they get on the ship safely. Oh, Clem, if those aren't famous last words, I don't know what are. Soul is going down in the next episode. I don't think they're getting on that ship safely at all.
Yeah, we've already buried Soul. It's all right. Soldiers will roll on. Hopefully becomes a cool Force ghost. And listen, I'll ride or die for Soul. He's going to be a great Force ghost. Some would say a better Force ghost than a man. And he's the most important Force ghost in the history of Star Wars. That's what a lot of people
And
say.
If he's supposed to be based on Qui-Gon, I mean, he's going to get stabbed in the gut probably.
He's going to make a sacrifice that's going to make me cry. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, it's going to be in front of everyone. I mean, I think a lot of these Jedi are. Basil finds May. Oh, that was the other kind of not subplot, but kind of a subplot running through the episode is that Basil is like a hunting dog. So he sniffs the scent and he's just sniffing around, which I also loved. That he's just like, yeah, it makes sense for Jedi to have a fucking hunting dog. They don't have super force smelling.
He just starts yelping at the top of his lungs.
Yes, screams when he finds May. And May runs into the Kelnacca hut. She finds him dead, which again, I wasn't happy about. He's got the fucking slice and it's like still, smoking. It looks bad. It looks sad seeing a Wookiee dead like that. I've never seen a Wookiee fucking slayed like that. I didn't like that. And I didn't like that we didn't get to see him have like a cool lightsaber scene. His coolest scene was the Force and he breaks the gun. Maybe we'll get a flashback with him on Brendok. Maybe he'll be a good one. Hopefully. Can't make the Wookiees bad like that, right? I know Black Chrysanthemum, but he was kind of good by the end.
That was my biggest takeaway. We got promised a Wookiee Jedi. We saw him do some kind of cool shit, and we never got to see any more cool shit. And we're probably not going to see a Wookiee Jedi anytime soon. So
Yeah,
unless we get a flashback, that is what will ruin Star Wars for me. It's a promise of a Wookiee
I
Jedi, and he
know.
just kind of stinks. So figure it the fuck out, Acolyte.
The Jedi surround the hut. The Sith drops down slowly, floats down out of focus. This shot was awesome. This was the best shot of the episode because it's so creepy the way he just slowly floats down behind Osha. The Jedi do a horrible job from this point on, where it's
Horrible.
like, all right, I get they told Osha, you stay back and we're going to be the barrier between you and the hut, you and May. Perfect. As soon as that Sith floats down, it's on site. Like they just stood there with their like finger in their ass. Is that the line? With their thumb in their ass.
Thumb in their ass. Yep.
And the finger sounded weirder.
It's
They stood
technically
there with their thumb in their
wrong,
asses though, and they were like, "Who is that? Stand down! Don't do this! Don't." He ignites the lightsaber. They're still not like running. Like I think they ignite theirs but like when he ignites the lightsaber and he's got Osha face to face, are you guys going to fight or no? And he just flicks her to the side and then force push ends the episode. Force pushes like all of them in one clean swoop. They better be a good second half team because if not, next episode, they're all dying. I think there's a chance they all die. And that's why fucking Ki-Adi-Mundi doesn't know about the Sith. He killed them all. And maybe there'll be a cover up, maybe involving the witches of like, yes, her her master was a Jedi or a former Jedi, and it'll all be within. The Jedi will have to cover that up and never talk about it. Maybe that's why he doesn't know about the Sith.
I could see some Jedi, Christian, Catholic Church kind of like cover up fucked up shit. I could definitely see it coming. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm gonna hold out my reservations. And like, I love the people who are like Bob and Clem just like slurping the show, guys. I was the first person on the internet, I think, who said he hated Last Jedi because I just tell you guys how it is. I have no fucking agendas here. I hope this is better. It's been all right. It's not been as bad as I thought. Episode 3 was a fucking disaster, as we talked about. And if they need me to write a movie, I will. I'm just putting it out there.
We'll step in. We'll be consultants.
I'll use AI to write the actual words a lot, but other than that, because I am not smart enough to write a script. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, like, then when that happened, I'm like, all right, this is what Ken Jack was talking about. Hopefully we see some cool shit come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, in the next episode, we should get a huge battle, right? We have 8-10 Jedi out there or something, all with crazy lightsabers and shit. I'm sure the light whip is going to come into play at some point, though. That's going to be the next thing to piss everyone. The light whip. Oh, that's going to be rough discourse. But I feel like we're calling it at least down the middle how we see it. We're being open about the scenes we don't like, even in this episode. But as a whole, I watched this episode twice, as I do with all of them before we do the podcast. I wasn't like bored with it. It moves quick, sometimes to its detriment. It moves too quick, but it's completely watchable to me. It's not the horrendous show that some are making it out to be. And again, it's nowhere near the level of the holiday special. It only has to do with review bombing on Rotten Tomatoes that those scores are in the same realm. If the holiday special is a 1 out of 10, and that might be generous to the holiday special, I would say this is at the very least, if you hate The Acolyte, a 3 out of 10.
We'll see where it goes after next week.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Because we also said Secret Invasion started great, which we were like Olivia Colman, Sam Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn. Oh, wait, where did Ben Mendelsohn go? And, quickly it went off the rails.
Jackson's arm now. What the fuck happened?
Yeah. Hopefully,
you brought it up this week, not me. For the record.
True. Jackie's going to have like Darth Vader's robot arm in the final episode. No, but the discourse about it this week, yeah. I even had a friend text me about it and be like, I heard they were talking pronouns this week. Like, I think he was a little upset about it. And I wrote back. I was like, yeah, Ki-Adi-Mundi's trans now. And he was upset about that. But I was like, nah, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right. What do we have for a hashtag this week?
Hashtag Let's Go ZD. We need ZD to win tonight. Because if we don't, I'm going to be legit.
Oh, I like that. I'm down for that. Hashtag Let's Go ZD. If you're listening to this on release day, I think it's 7 p.m. The dozen goes live on all the Barstool channels. Root on Clem, and hopefully he'll get like a fucking this actor was in the Marvel universe, blah blah blah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you on Sunday night for House of the Dragon.